So thank you all so much for joining. A very good evening, and I hope all of you are keeping safe and well during these times. So a very, very warm welcome to our very first episode of Real Transformations. I'm very excited about this. This is the first time I'm doing something like this. And as promised, we're going to be talking to a variety of people about their inspirational life journeys. So, our guest for today evening is none other than Her Royal Highness Maharani Radhika Raje Gaikwad. And I'd like to give a little introduction before we invite her to join us on this live chat. So, to the manner born, Radhika Raje was born in the princely family of Wankaner, Gujarat. She completed her schooling from CJM, followed by Mayo College, Ajmer. Yes, Radhika and I were batchmates at school, which is what makes this chat particularly interesting for me to have her as my guest today. Then she went on to study history honors at LSR College and earned her master's degree in medieval Indian history from Delhi University. She worked as a journalist with the Indian Express Group before marrying His Royal Highness Maharaja Samarjit Singh Gaikwad, and then on she moved to Baroda. Presently, she is actively involved in running various family trusts to impart vocational training to lower income women and conserve Indian art and heritage. She is also assisting her mother-in-law, Rajmata Shubhangini Raje Gaikwad, in reviving the lost old weaving techniques of Chanderi, which is intrinsic to the royal Maratha tradition. She is also the director of CDS Art Foundation and has been conferred with several prestigious awards for her immense contribution to the revival and promotion of art, textile, and heritage. So please join me in welcoming Her Royal Highness Radhika Raje Gaikwad to Real Transformations. I'm going to request Radhika, who's live with us on this chat, to send me a request, and then I'm going to add her on this chat. Waiting for her to send me a request. Please be patient. Yeah. Okay, here she comes. Dot on time. Hi, Radhika.
Hi, how are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm well, very well.
You're looking beautiful.
And so are you? I love what you're wearing.
Thank you so much. This is a Jamdani. Since,
Yeah,
we were going to be talking a lot about revival of Indian textile, I thought, why not go the whole 9 yards, as they say.
absolutely. I'm actually
Yeah.
in a 9 year.
Yes, yes, I can see, and you're looking lovely. So
So
thank
are
you
you.
so much for joining us on this most special conversation. And I want to start by asking you about your growing up years. So tell us something about that.
Um, well, growing up yours is when you knew me, Divya. I, of course, was born in Bangkok, in Thailand. My father was posted in United Nations Environment Program, so he was in, we were in Bangkok, and that's where I was born. And my earlier childhood years were in Bhopal, and then I came to my second standard. I was in Convent of Jesus and Mary, which is where you and I met. And it was a when we were in school, Divya. It was we were very normal children. My father was, like I said, nice officer, so very bureaucratic background there. So it was very, very normal growing up for me, as opposed to when I would be on holiday and go back to my grandparents' home, my ancestral home, which was very, very grand and palatial. And literally, a house would fit in, just my grandfather's, loo and, washroom and toilet and things like that. They would be so grand and so beautiful. So it was a very lovely, balanced childhood that I had growing up in, different cultures and adjusting to both.
Excellent. And in fact, I remember those days when we were in school together, and I know that you celebrated your birthday recently. So, first of all, again, very happy birthday from all of us. And you remember in school, we used to have that tradition that we would distribute those sweets to the
Yes,
entire class, and we
yes.
used to so look forward to that.
I know it was a big deal when you would, and two sweets. I remember the birthday girl would be allowed to go around and put two sweets on each one's desk, and that was when everyone would give you that cursory, happy birthday. And it was a big day because you could wear colored clothes. When we were younger, it was a very exciting day to come in home clothes.
Yes, yes, I remember those days because, they were so strict with us in school. So that was
Yeah.
one day where the birthday girl would just sort of, have a blast.
Absolutely. But there were so
Excellent.
many of us from so many different walks of life, and we had no idea where they came from. It was only as we were growing up, or even after school, did we realize that, oh, this, like Devika Burman, she was my partner for the longest time in school. One did not know she was from the Dabur family, honestly, and she would come with those Hajmola candies for me. I used to love them, but it never struck me that she's getting them because she probably has a
She's
factory which makes them, but it doesn't strike you. So these relationships are really made in such an innocent and genuine way, and that's why they last, don't you think?
Absolutely. I think that, we were all so innocent in school, and that's the beauty of it, that it's not about who is from which family. You just connect on a very, very human level and a very personal level. And, those connections are really special. So, yes, yes. I mean, I remember even at that time, you were very down to earth, and there were absolutely no airs about you. And none of us could tell that you're from the Wankaner family. So there you go. So it was a very simple, sweet time.
Yeah, it was truly.
And tell me something more about that from the point of view that our school was very close to the Indian handloom emporiums and a lot of these other places, and you
Yes.
spent a great part of your childhood here in Delhi growing up. So did that sow the seeds very early in you in terms of having an interest in Indian textiles? Tell us a little more about that.
So growing up, I mean, like our school was Convent Jesus St. Mary, which was at near Bangla Sahib, Golda Khana. So
Yes.
it gave me one lasting love. Firstly, was for Sikhism, because every year before the report card, I had to go to Bangla Sahib and Matha Tekko. So it was something which was very, very intrinsic for me because I was always so nervous about what my report card would be like. So there first, and then of course Sacred Heart Cathedral. So these were the two major, spiritual or religious kind of experiences for me that I look forward to going to school, or which were I associate with school. And the other was Baba Khadak Singh Math. That was not far from where our school was. And my mother was very, very fond of Indian textile, and so is my sister. My sister is 10 years older than me. So she had already a much more developed sense of aesthetics and style, which was very, very Indian and arty. In those days, even, she was wearing clothes which were, one would see Shabana Azmi wear or Smita Patil wear, these embroidered kurtas and mix and
Wow.
match, and which was so very, you associate now with so much with Delhi. You don't see it anywhere else. Say maybe a bandhni dupatta or block print kurta, or another colored anjutis, or very arty. So we would go around, maybe post school sometimes we would go to Baba Khada Singh Mahat and see all those emporiums which were there, these fabulous emporiums from Madhya Pradesh to Orissa to all of them were there. And so that you kind of get exposed to these textiles and crafts from a very early age. And both my sister and I are even today so passionate about it. So it comes from there, I think. You know, those visits to Baba Kharat Singh Marg and to Dilli Haat, to Craft Mela, to all those Dastakar Melas that used to happen. Delhi was really a fulcrum of so many crafts, and there used to always be some exhibitions. And I remember we would, you know, whether it was Gymkhana Club or India International Center, which would always host these cultural events. You would always see women so beautifully turned out, seasonal, wearing seasonal, you know, either tanjoi, silk, kanjivaram, or then jamdani like yourself, or dhakai. So many beautiful textiles I grew up seeing. So it stays with you and it really shapes you to be that person.
Yes, that's very true. I mean, I remember, and Delhi was always this melting pot of cultures and art, and there was this whole arty group, the way you described, and you would get all these very interesting things in terms of clothing and accessories, and you could really curate and put together a very interesting look. So yes, I mean that was interesting. So tell me, Radhika, what piece are you wearing right now, and which particular Indian textiles or crafts interested you more than others?
So I'm wearing a chandeli.
Oh,
So
lovely.
yes, so of course I grew up also, like I said, my earlier years were spent in Bhopal, which is Madhya Pradesh. So we would go to the Madhya Pradesh Emporium actually because my father being an IS officer, he also got, my mother would get as a bureaucrat, she was entitled to say a 5 or 10% discount, in the Emporium. So we would always go and pick up stuff. So it was that association with Chanderi comes from there. Then of course when I got married, I was surrounded by beautiful Chanderis because my mother-in-law comes from Gwalior, which is very close to Chanderi. And it was a part of Gwalior state, the weaving center of Chanderi. And I got exposed to say the older patterns, which I hadn't seen really, the old motifs, the real zari, the fabric was different. And then I realized that, wow, these are, real heirloom pieces. And my mother-in-law had been working with the weavers there and had revived certain designs for, at the time of her daughter's wedding, at the time of my wedding to her son. And that's how the, association with Chanderi went on beyond just my childhood years. So I feel strongly because we've worked with the weavers there, we know the problems they face, and we've, the kind of work we've done together has been very fruitful. So that is one textile, yes, I do have a soft corner for. The other is Baroda Shalu. Baroda Shalu
Okay.
nobody knows really of Baroda Shalu as I mentioned it because they were woven in Baroda, but they were special looms and they were commissioned exclusively for Baroda family. And new designs would be initiated when there was a royal occasion or a wedding or a birth of a prince or a princess. And then the weavers would come to Baroda, but the family would get their pick, and then they would be circulated amongst other Maratha royal families and nobility. But the name stayed, Baroda Shalu, and the weave and the texture, the motifs, they were really, really complex and beautiful. And one doesn't see them now, and it's not been researched much. So I'm trying to put my energy in reviving that and researching as much as possible.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Yes, I mean, I have not heard of Baroda Shalu, so I'd love to look forward to researching more on this, and that's really very, very interesting. So, how did journalism happen after?
Journalism after college. So
Yeah.
my college was also in Delhi. I was in Lady Shriram. My father made sure I was like all girls school, all girls college. I know you were
Okay.
in Stevens, yes.
Yes.
So there I
So
was in
actually, just to add to that, so I made a very conscious effort that since I'd been to an all-girls school, I want to make sure that college is hopefully not all girls. Nothing against it, but that was just the focus. So it's interesting you say that because I think it plays such an important role in your growing up years.
Absolutely, absolutely. But in this case, I really didn't have much of a choice. Though I was called
Okay.
for an interview to St. Stephen's, and I left it at that. So I was happy that I was at least, made it to the interview level. But I knew my father was not going to be happy sending me to, even though it was his alma mater. So he's an ex-Stephanian himself. But I knew he wanted me to go to an all-girls college. And so LSR it was, and I mean, it was wonderful. I thoroughly enjoyed being there, made wonderful friends. And there again, another chapter of very, very, the kind of culture that the girls were from were all different. There were some from Assam, from South, and they would also be wearing their, many often they would be wearing their mekla, lungi, the chadar, or they would just drape the, the Nagaland, lungis and come, to college. So you'd see a lot of different styles of, styling your clothes or textiles and things like that. So it was very exciting time to be out of your uniform firstly, and then be able to
Yes.
explore different clothing.
So that's really
Sorry, your
interesting.
question was about journalism. Sorry,
Yes,
I
I was. No, but that's the good thing about these conversations is they're absolutely free flowing. So that actually brings me to a very interesting point, which is having been exposed to such a different environment, for example, in Delhi, and such a multicultural environment where you're meeting people from different states, and each one has their own style quotient. Do you think that also played a role in who you are today, and gave you a sort of a different edge in terms of being a royal? Do you think that shaped
Yes,
your
I think
thoughts a
so.
little
I think
differently?
I absolutely feel it did give an edge because you're at a playing level with everyone, so you're not really looked up at as or talked up to or talked down to. You're at level with everyone because in bureaucracy or in a public school like we were, you're just about anybody and everybody. So. And my father's friends and colleagues and batchmates and our neighbors were from all over the country. We had Kashmiri neighbors, we had neighbors who were Sikhs, we had from UP. So and you're eating in each other's homes, you're invited by each other. So you're really having a well-rounded growing up, which was wonderful. And then we would also travel a lot all over India. So once a year we would do road trips, or we would travel some part of the country. So actually my first trip abroad, real trip abroad to Europe, was when I was in college. I was traveling all over India, and everywhere we would pick up local craft or local textiles. And my mother was very particular, keen that मैं मेरी बेटी को I give saris from all different states of India as far as possible. And so we would go and we would, the trousseau began earlier from my sister. So I was again getting introduced as we were, like I said, she was 10 years older. So maybe as 10, 11-year-old, she was already married while I was 12. So before that, all her trousseau was being done as we traveled around the country, picking up saris. And same thing when it was my time. So it really opens your eyes up to people, cultures, crafts around the country. And I think it gives you really an edge, because once you are, married in a home as I am, there's so much to be proud of here as well. There is so much to be that I feel proud to be a Maratha Bahu, to be a daughter-in-law of the Gaikwad house. At the same time, there's so much that I have seen and witnessed and learned and enjoyed about the Indian culture that it's you hold your own either ways.
Right, right. Interesting. So, tell me something now in terms of your thoughts on how royals are keeping themselves relevant today, because it's one thing to sort of a lot of people think that being part of royalty is really growing up with the silver spoon and having things pretty much set for you. Can you tell us more about your real experience and how you're keeping yourself, or how you see the royalty trying to be relevant in today's times?
I think royalty has always been in touch with the people. There is this belief. One says that royalty live in ivory towers and they don't know. They never knew what was really happening with the people. But the truth is, Divya, for them to be the leaders or the spokespeople or representative of their people, we're talking of hundreds of years. without any of the kind of upheavals you see around the world. There was like the Chinese Revolution or the French Revolution, the Russian Revolution. Why didn't India have that? Because by and large, and I don't say that for every royal house in the country, but by and large, almost all of them were very, very sensitive and tuned to their people. They would mingle with the people. They would very often clandestinely be out with the people to get an idea of what is happening with them. And the patronage was given to all the arts and crafts and skills and culture of their state. So post-independence, what happened was that to feel that connection, to still feel connected with the people, most of them naturally went into politics. They had grown up as leaders. They had seen their ancestors, their forefathers, all as leaders. So it comes very naturally and instinctively for most royal families to step into politics. And the
Right.
people embrace them wholeheartedly because that's the role they have always seen them generationally in. Other than that, a lot of them have patronized the arts and crafts of their people over the years. The only thing is that we don't know how to market ourselves. So we've been working at the grassroots level, with the community, but then we don't really talk about it because our whole sanskar and system is that if when you do when you do something philanthropic, the idea is not to beat your own drum. So you do it in your own quiet way with your nose, down. And that's how a lot of royal families have been doing it all over the country. Now, through certain platforms like Royal Fables, these patronage is being, discovered by everyone else. But it's always been there, Divya.
Right, right. And just the other day, in fact, I've been following your Instagram account and you've been putting up posts about how you want to raise awareness for, let's say, the fishermen in Odisha or some of the other craftswomen there. And it's so heartening to see that because, you're actually going to grassroots level, sharing with us what their experience is like for a livelihood on a day-to-day basis and how the pandemic is actually impacting them. So that's excellent. And how has this impacted you, all this work as a person? And how are you translating that to the next generation? Say, your children, for example. Like, how do you see that entire process?
So the journey with reaching out to the artisans of Odisha is my sister's at the helm of it. She's actually at the ground, helping them and supporting them. There's very little I can do from here other than create awareness and generate, do the fundraising aspect. And I think together we've been a remarkable team in doing that. And honestly, I never realized the kind of support you can garner through social media, Divya.
Yes,
There's been so many people who've reached out. I've had, such generous amounts of money that have come from people who I barely know. I've never
touch
met
wood.
them. But they trust you, so then again your legacy plays a part that, traditionally our families have had a good reputation, have received the love of their people, and therefore they still trust you to, give you their hard-earned money
Right.
for a social cause with no questions asked. So that's very heartening for both my sister and I. But the whole experience was wonderful to get that rootedness again in your craft and your Indianness. I think at this time where we've really slowed down, more than a lockdown, I feel it's a slowdown where we've really been able to connect with ourselves, really focus on what we want in our lives, because we've been able to cut out so much of the unnecessary extras that we've been lugging around. Don't you feel? In terms of whether it's the travel or the activities we surround ourselves with socially, and how easily we've been able to do without it. So it really centers you to what is essential to you. And I feel that as a person, I felt that I wanted to help in the crafts of India and the artisans of India. And somewhere you feel that's your calling. So um, great feeling of being able to connect with the artisans of Orissa. So it's all thanks to social media and my sister sitting there who's actually doing the work. But it's been very educating for me as well to learn about what the ground reality is.
Yes, and thanks to you, a lot of us can actually read about it and experience it, through your posts. And very well put, because in this pandemic, I think all of us have realized that we can actually do without all the extra superfluous things that were, just filling up our time and keeping us so busy. We were running like headless chickens, but actually you don't need that much to feel that you can live a happy, fulfilled life. We all need actually very little.
True.
So the one thing that we're all missing in the pandemic, of course, is the human connect that has slowed down. But I think otherwise, it's been quite a good time for introspection. So
Absolutely.
would you call yourself a people's princess? This is a question coming from one of our viewers.
I'm a people's person for sure. You can give me any title you want, but I am definitely a person, people's person. Yes, I like to be with
Yes.
people. I like to meet people from different walks of life. I like to know about different cultures. So yes, absolutely.
And I'll second that, because having grown up with you in school and even interacted with you after that, one has always got a very open, welcome from you at any point. So that's fantastic.
Those are my Satkari roots, ISD roots.
Great. So now you also did a fashion show on textiles recently as director of the CDS Art Foundation. Tell us something about that experience and how was it coming back here and doing that?
It was CDS Art Foundation works in bridging designers and artisans and giving a rightful dignity to the karigar of the artisans. And you celebrate the art and the designer, and it's called Walking Hand in Hand. So we had it first in Baroda, and it was hugely successful. It was with the backdrop of the palace here, and it was very well received in Baroda. And so it was natural that we would want to take it to Delhi, because Delhi is really the heart of the culture capital, and of course the political capital too, but also the cultural capital of the country. And so we had planned it in Delhi. However, it poured that day on the 28th of 29th of
Yes,
Feb. It
I
was in
remember the whole
Ludhiana,
place was
and
flooded.
it was so and it was even this open air venue, and it was
Yes.
so sad because everything was planned. We were ready to go out, and it just rained cats and dogs. Unusual for that time of the year. And of course, we were carried on to the next day, but it was so much tension. But we pulled it through. It went off well. It was very well received. Um, and it was a wonderful experience to go back, to take that back home to where I grew up, back to Delhi, where the audience is so discerning.
Yes, that's one thing about the audience here. Um, okay, so you were also talking to me the other day about how you're keeping yourself and finding new ways to, keep yourself relevant during the pandemic. For example, you told us something about the golf course. Would you like to share some of that initiative with our viewers?
So there used to be a golf course in the olden days. It was started by my grandfather, Pratap Singh Rao Maharaj, and then around in late 90s, earlier it was started by my husband, a smaller golf course, and then we got married in 2002, and I think in 2003 or 4 he um, opened the new golf course, which was bigger and circled the palace. And that was a way of keeping yourself again connected with your people of Baroda, so you don't kind of isolate yourself in your estate. He enjoys playing the game, and he wanted to invite others to come and enjoy the sport as well. And so it was the first private golf course in Gujarat, and we have a huge number of golfers now here, and people come from outside and play as well. And uh, he built around it, my husband Samarji, the entire club culture. So there's of course a swimming pool now. There were old tennis courts, clay courts. There are badminton courts, which are teak wood flooring. So you do
Wow.
that easy on your knees. And then of course the gym and all the other facilities. But it's become a wonderful center where people of all age groups come to the estate and enjoy the greenery, the nature, as well as these sporting facilities. So one has to, I think, reinvent yourself with time. And if you have the facility to share it with your people, and I think that's
Yes,
the
that's
culture
very important.
is that, yes. And of course, we also have the museum, the Maharaja Fateh Singh Museum, which has a very good collection of Raja Rai Varma painting. That's also in the state. And
Yes, and we saw a beautiful Instagram post of you being painted, you know, in that style. So that's really, really beautiful.
yeah, it was Pankaj did that for my birthday, and I think it was very well received. Yes, we all enjoyed
Yes.
that.
Great. So there's a question coming in, which is the Lakshmi Vilas Palace still open for people who want to visit?
Yes, we are. We are open, not in this time, not through
Yes,
this
of course.
lockdown, but yes, we are open for visitors.
Right, right. I think okay, the question was more about the pandemic. And okay, here's a question from Saral. What would you like to be remembered about you? How
Oh
would you
my,
like
I'm looking forward to
people
that.
to remember you? So I was actually going. So this is something I want to share with the viewers before we get Radhika to answer this question. So I was also reading that you're also a wildlife enthusiast, along with being a textile revivalist and a heritage conservationist.
Yes.
So if you could tell us a little bit about that, and then Saral will answer your question.
So my father's a wildlife conservationist, and he was uh, he was uh, uh, he was director of wildlife, and he's drafted the Wildlife Protection Act as it still stands today. Because, like I said, he was an IS officer, and this was what he was greatly pursuing. And we would travel around. Like I said, firstly, I traveled only around the country, and most of the time we would go to these beautiful national parks, and we would stay in these little rest houses and forest rest houses which had no batti, there was no bijli, and we would be all with laltain, and we would be out there on the with bonfires, and that's how rustic it was. But it was beautiful being in nature, to be hearing the calls of the wild through the night, and so that was basically very much my simple childhood, mostly in nature, and that develops a love for it in a way that nothing else can. So over the years, it's something that is keeps beckoning me to be back in the wilderness, and we've traveled, of course, all over the world, pursuing nature and wildlife. We've done trips to the Antarctica. We've done, um, all over the world, um, to to see nature and be to see wildlife. And going with my father is, you're always getting that experience of you're understanding nature. You're in awe of nature. You learn to respect it. So that is a very, very big part of me growing up. The adventure
Right.
traveler, the nature traveler. We've been attacked by elephants and bears, and we've done all of that. So
Wow, what are you saying?
close
Oh
calls,
my.
yeah. Because father will not leave that camera till he gets that shot. Even if that animal is like literally touching his lens.
Oh my. Gosh. Okay. And how would you best like to be remembered?
I think as a good person, honestly, as a good human being.
So, in one of your past interviews, now coming back to the conversation we were having earlier on textiles, there are lots of questions, but we'll keep weaving them in as we go along. Which is, I remember in one of your interviews you had mentioned that you were wearing a blouse which was 70 years old. So there's some
Yes.
real heritage pieces, in your wardrobe.
Yeah. So that luckily for me, my mother was also very, very passionate about textiles, and she's kept all the old textiles very beautifully. So I've inherited a lot of that, and lucky for me that my size was exactly what my aunt-in-law's was. My So all her blouses when she was growing up at her wedding time, I I fit into, luckily, and they're so beautifully tailored, and they have these weights at the bottom, which give it the shape and
Yes.
fall, and lovely pockets and lining, and beautifully fitted, and the textiles are from China and Kinka from Banaras. I mean, beautiful, or French chiffons, beautifully lined. So luckily, I've inherited them, and they're in wonderful condition, and I do wear them time to time, and that's like for me real luxury when you can wear something which has been carried down for so many generations and has seen so many different times and different eras. It's special.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, as you mentioned, to first of all preserve it in such good condition and then be able to wear it. And I'm also remembering in one of your interviews you shared that in those days luxury is not the way it is today. It was designed so that you could actually wear the piece throughout the day, not for just a couple
Yeah.
of hours. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so Divya, now saris are confined to say a wedding or a reception, and usually we pin them up. Either they're pre-draped or you pin them up and you wear them, and you're not doing much. You just wear them for that evening. You just wish everyone, and you can't wait to get out of them. But in the olden days, there were so many functions and festivals that were being celebrated in your ghar, chota chota bhi, but you used to dress up for it. Even if there is a puja in your house, in our house we must wear a zari ka sari अगर घर में भी पूजा है. और my mother always says कि मंदिर जा रहे हो तो साड़ी पहन के जाना चाहिए कि भगवान को you're giving that respect. You must dress
Right.
up, and it's not for yourself, but you make that effort for him. Like how you go to a dinner party, you will dress up, no, for the occasion. So the same
Absolutely.
way, when you go to the temple, you must give him that respect and dress up for the Lord. So in the olden days, you had to also look after your kids or your in-laws or cook your meals. Your garment had to be comfortable. There was no question of sitting in your own house, in one place and expecting things to not move. So that it had to be breathable textile, because India has summers where you are almost
Yes.
80% of the year it's warm in most places in the country. They had to be breathable, they had to be washable, they had to be comfortable. They were very, very practical textiles. Now it is that we have the options of having AC and just those days everything had to be comfortable and beautiful.
Yes, absolutely. I think it was a lot of form and function, blended together and meshed together. And, over the years, a lot of people have actually just preserved the sari, which is a beautiful garment for special occasions. And then it became more about how it looked. And the function aspect of just kind of took a back seat there a bit, didn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So there's a question coming in here, which is how did, it's a little bit of a personal question, but how did you and Maharaja Samarjit Singh meet? So if you'd like
Arranged
to
me.
take that question.
Arranged.
Okay.
Absolutely arranged. Like I said, all girls school, college, no question. So,
Right.
so it was my sister-in-law, my husband's sister, elder sister. She's married to one of our family friends in a principality neighboring Baroda, of Wakane, where I came from, an old family friend. So she had seen me, and she thought of her brother. So that's how it came down. Then he came down to
You know
Delhi and we
what's
met.
right? What's very refreshing is, Radhika, talking to you after so many years, I still feel like you're the same person, that person inside you who, is very down to earth, very approachable. And so that aspect of you, you've managed to preserve that very, very well.
Thank you.
Great. I'm just gonna check. Okay, there's a question coming in. How can we meet you, ma'am? Okay, let me put that in the comments box after the chat. Okay. Anything that you'd like to talk to us about or share with us in terms of your experience, particularly during this pandemic, where all of us have got so much more time to introspect and really use social media to get our message out there. Anything that you'd like to share with
Yes, I
us,
think
which
with time, I've really been able to appreciate my time with my family. I think everyone will say that. So it's
right.
been distressing for many of us. I think all of us have been affected by it in some way or the other. But just trying to look at the positives here, I would say it's been a time where we've really been able to make time. I've been able to make a lot of time for myself. So
Right.
I'm exercising in the morning. I'm swimming in the evening. Today, I have the entire pool because I know, the members are not choosing I have the entire pool to myself. So, I've really been able to focus and enjoy my time with myself. And
Right.
that's been a wonderful, part of this pandemic for me. I've got a lot of time with my children. We've had to innovate and find ways to keep ourselves occupied and engaged with each other, because there's no going out for a movie or to the mall or to a restaurant. It's really about how can you keep that excitement alive in your day-to-day life by engaging in each other every day. I mean, at the end of the day, when you're not going anywhere, how much do you have to say to each other? But yet, you find things to do together and keep things, exciting, especially when you have children. You connect with them in a way that is different from your routine. Get ready for school or finish your homework when there was none of that too. So it's been wonderful, I think, for all of us to rewire how we all engage with each other in a day-to-day level. So the same
Right.
kind
And
of.
are you, yeah, and are you also able to pass on a lot of the legacy to them, particularly in terms of your exposure, your simplicity? A lot of that is. Are you getting a lot of time with them to be able to you know
I think I'm getting a
do
lot of time
that?
to do that. But of course, the times are different. When we were growing up, or when my husband was also growing up, nobody knew who he was, and they kept it like that. My
Right.
sister-in-laws, my husband, when they were in boarding school, nobody knew who they were, and so they were, they had friends which came from a very genuine place of wanting to be friends because they were, people they wanted to be friends with. Now in the world of social media, when you're recognized, or when you're in the city that you are, say, of the royal family, then there is always an interest, or there is uh, for the children it's little tougher than it was, say, in our time.
Yes.
Growing up is little tougher in terms
Definitely.
of
They have a lot more distractions and
yes,
people know who
yes,
you are, and so it's a
yes.
lot there's a
So
lot
look,
more pressure. You can't have that sort of a normal it's difficult. I won't
yes.
say you can't, but it's tough. It has its
Yes.
challenges.
So far, luckily, we have been able to keep it as normal for them, and they've,
Right.
doing just fine, and they've made good friends and all of that. But yeah, one does worry that as they grow up, and as they will be more and more exposed, they're still very young now. How they will be able to, go forward with that.
Right. So there's some questions coming. Can you tell us something about the Maratha royal culture? There's a question from someone in the audience for that.
There's so much to say about the Maratha
I
culture.
know.
Not been explored enough, but yes, the fact that they were great warriors, very, very patriotic, and really stood up for themselves, and particularly the women. I love the fact that Maratha women have been so feisty and really have held their position in a man's world for so many decades and generations. I've always That's something that always stands out for me about the Maratha culture. The very, very strong, elegant
Yes.
women who stood up for their rights and their position in society. Whether it is Rani Jhansi or Savitri Bai Phule, um, anyone you look at, any walk of life, I love that the Maharashtrian women are so smart.
Yes. And on since we spoke about your love for wildlife, do you have any pets at home?
Oh my! We have two dogs, which my daughters are obsessed with. Obsessed.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. So we have a beagle and a French bulldog.
Okay,
We
lovely.
also have tortoises in the courtyard. So they've been there for like years and years. So I think they're from the time the palace has been made. There have been some generation or the other of that tortoise family living on. We've not gone and got anyone from there. They just lived with their generationally lived there as long as the Gaikwads have lived. This tortoise family has lived.
That's adorable.
Yeah,
That's
but in the
adorable.
state we have beautiful animals because there's so much greenery, Divya. We have porcupines, we had a sambar, we had
Oh,
jackals. which come and go. We have crocodiles. I
Wow.
kid you not. Yeah, and they're coming to the golf course all the time, and then they have to mark it off as a hazard because our estate is lined by the river. So very often, especially when it floods in this monsoon, they come in. Peacocks, of course, langurs,
Peacocks, of course, yeah.
yeah, and lots of langurs, and the ibis, egrets. I mean, it's just, it's bliss. So much nature here.
Beautiful. So, Radhika, I really want to thank you for coming online and sharing your experiences with us, talking to us about your work in Indian textiles and all of that. And any closing remarks from your side before we end today's chat?
No, I think it's. Thank you so much, Divya, for having me, and thank you everyone for joining in. And it's. I think this pandemic is not ending for most of us, and I think we are all getting a little antsy. So just hang in there. This too will pass.
Yes, absolutely. And more power to you and crafts in the time of COVID initiative.
Yes.
That's something that I know that
Those
you're
are
putting a lot
thank
of
you a lot.
time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. Absolutely. Thank you so
Well,
much.
fantastic. Thank you. Thank you so much. And we wish you all the very best.
Thank you. Thank you all. Thank you for joining in.
Thank you all for joining. Bye.